If we were printing an image to put on the wall of our home, we would generally put that image within a frame. But what about the images we display at our camera club or in a digital way? Digitally projected images. Do we frame those too? I choose to put a thin line around my images that I post onto my Flickr galleries because the images are all presented on a black background. Generally speaking, the line thickness that I use is much less than the two previous examples. If the image is a very dark, moody shot, a thin line around the edge can separate the image from the background. The dark edges of that image can often merge into the background, particularly if it's black. We often see something similar with our digitally projected images in Camera Club competitions. So let's take a look at how we can put this thin line around the outer edge in Photoshop's layers. Now this cloudscape image that I'm going to use here has been resized to Camera Club competition rules. So this particular image is 1920 pixels on the long side and 1080 pixels in height. I mention that because if you're following this video with higher resolution images, maybe for print purposes, you're going to need a greater thickness of line than we need here. Probably the easiest way to add this line is via the layer effects down at the bottom left of the layers palette. But first, if we move our cursor into the grey area between the outer frame or window here and the image and right click, we can change it instantly to black, and it does give us a better idea of how our image may be seen on Flickr or in a darkened club room. Very easy to change it back, just do the same thing again, right click, and I use the default and I'm back where I started. But the black is quick to select and it does allow us to see what we're doing. First thing we need to do is to remove the lock. All that's going to do is to allow us to use the effects. They're grayed out if the lock is left in place. The lock merely separates the canvas. If I move my image to the left, here we can see the checkerboard canvas and the image in question. We don't need to make any changes to these, but it's nice to know. Control Z will reset that movement. So if I go down to the bottom of the layers and choose the effects, I'm going to go directly to stroke. Let's bring this right in the middle. Now I'm sure you've seen this panel before, but we do have quite a lot of different styles down the left hand side, but here we need to concentrate on the stroke. If we tick the box, the stroke is applied. Let's select the blending options at the top. So if I tick the stroke here, it'll always apply the last setting, but I do need to highlight this area if I want to get to the options for this particular stroke command, and we can see them here. Now I'm going to suggest that that line is far too bright and far too thick at 3 pixels here in the size option. So I'm just going to click and drag over the value 3 pixels and I'll overtype it to 1 and we see an instant improvement, but I think we can make it better than that. In the next option, it's the position of where we want the line placed. Now if I choose outside, of course we're not going to see the line because it's outside of the picture dimensions. So we either have to have it set inside or center. If we choose center, we're going to get a lesser effect. Generally speaking, I always choose inside, that way I know exactly where I am. But then we come to the color. If I double click that panel, you'll see the color picker appears. And we've got an almost pure white set, but I'm going to bring my choice right the way down, probably a little bit over halfway down, and you can see now the color that I've selected. So there's the white we applied before, and there's the color that I'm going to apply now. When I click OK and OK, you can see that that line is super delicate. It's certainly not overpowering, but it is just defining the edge of that image pretty nicely. Now, what I often do when I get to this stage is I move to the F key on my keyboard and I tap it twice. Once takes us there, twice takes us to a plain black background. And even here we can use the shortcut keys of Ctrl-0 to fit the image on screen. So here we get a much better view of the image in relation to the line we've applied. If we think that line is a little too bright still, then we can do something about it. To come back to the other screen, just press the F key again, and I'll hit Ctrl-0 so we can see the entire image, and in fact I'll bring it down just a little bit as it was before. Now, the effects we place on an image, in our case the stroke here, can be changed at any time. If I just double click the stroke, you can see the same panel we had up before appears. If I save this image as a Photoshop file, all of this will remain live no matter when I open the image in the future. But once we save this as a JPEG, then the thin line becomes a part of the image. But here I can make changes. So if I felt that line was not strong enough, I could choose to increase the 1 pixel to 2. I could click on my color panel and move the selection up a little bit, but if I felt it was still a little too bright, I can even bring it down further. As you can see, the change has been made. I can click OK and OK, and once again, if I just touch that F key a couple of times and Ctrl-0, there you can see the line is even more delicate. You'd hardly believe you'd even see the line, but it's doing the job just about perfectly. Now, once you find the thickness and density of the line that suits you, and it's probably going to be much the same as what I've chosen here. If you've watched the video that I created in video 53 about recording actions, we could make applying a thin line like this an action, so we can apply it with a simple keystroke. Now, as you can see here, I've opened up a different image into Photoshop. Once again, it's Camera Club competition size around 1920 on the long side. But I programmed an action via Shift and F2 to apply my thin line. And I can show that to you by hitting the F key a couple of times, and there we can see it fully on screen. Pretty quick and easy, and of course, if you do use different densities and thicknesses, you could program a little group. So everything we've done here for a dark image, we can do for a light one, although maybe for slightly different reasons. So if I go back to that area between the image and the frame, right click, I'll choose light grey. What I'm going to do next is apply that action that I demonstrated a few moments ago. Shift and F2. Video 35 is the video that shows you how to record actions. It's quicker here to apply this automatically, then double click the stroke in the layers palette and then click on the color and change that to black. Click OK and OK. There we have our light image beautifully picked out around the edge. I'll see you next time.